Right now, what we do for our reports, for those professors that use TurningPoint to give some sort of formal credit for their class, the database is basically housed in Excel spreadsheets managed through Microsoft Access. And then we'll take those data, print out a report in Excel and import it into Desire to Learn. And that's currently how we are monitoring those relatively few classes that use it for formal assessment purposes.
Okay.
We're not currently using it in WebCT, but I know we have a lot of faculty who are interested in that process, and I know they are here, many of them here, asking those questions.
Okay.
And we fall into the same category.
Excuse me?
We fall into that same category.
We fall into that same category. So will your process be then to kick off maybe an initiative or follow up on the campus feedback as recognized up there as number 2, do the scoping, and then move in that direction? And
in our case, our issue is mostly political. We don't yet have the version of WebCT running to support the integration. Once we get past that, then that will fall into place pretty quickly.
okay, good. Let's go to the next question. What is your best suggestion to encourage faculty to use TurningPoint? Your best suggestion in encouraging faculty to use TurningPoint?
My suggestion is to find a guy like the guy back there in the pink shirt. Craig McLaughlin is one of our young faculty at ISU who is really, really an energetic faculty. If you've had the good fortune to sit through his session or have that opportunity, strongly recommend it. He's just a contagious kind of guy. And so one of the things that I tend to do with any type of technology is to seek out those faculty who really want to try it. He likes to break it, which really helps. We learn a lot from the process. But then he's happy to share. So that would be my suggestion.
Okay, good.
I would echo those same kind of statements in terms of the approach, that find the faculty who are very interested. But the other thing about technology just in general, whether it's TurningPoint or any kind of instructional technology, is I think we need to tell faculty they don't have to go 100%. I mean, I think a lot of times we think it's all or nothing. In the distance learning, when you're putting it, sometimes people want to put a class online, they think it has to be totally online the first time. I really encourage them to take some baby steps at the beginning and experiment in a safe environment, like VPAD in a computer lab, where you can see everybody, but they are interacting with each other and doing those types of things, or using it. But it doesn't have to be every class time and every lecture to feel like you have to be successful that way.
I'd like to add to Michael's comment, though, the flip side of that is equally important, though, from a student's perspective. If you are a faculty and you bring that into class only twice for the course of the semester, they have a legitimate gripe for why did they pay for this thing. So while I agree with the baby steps, encouraging the use, if not daily, certainly regularly throughout the week, makes that whole adoption for both the faculty and the student a whole lot more seamless.
Mm-hmm.
And that's actually the reason we started the approach of buying sets and making them available before we had students buy them on their own, even thinking about that, because I think some faculty do need, I agree with what Doug's saying, but I think we need to make them, give them an opportunity to try it out.
One thing I found that faculty are very interested in is publishing, and it's difficult to publish without data. And if you can collect data during your class, and be able to publish those data, and using TurningPoint as an avenue to do that can be a very successful bartering chip for getting faculty to buy in. And an interesting way to do this is to use it to dispel basically preconceived notions. So asking very similar questions, let's say at the beginning of the semester versus the end of the semester, noting improvement through the course of the semester, and also just as a fun way to do it, get rid of preconceived notions. About 10% of the people at the University of Tennessee, one of our colleagues at the University of Tennessee, who teaches anatomy, found out that about 10% of his class thought that men had one less rib than women, which is a very interesting fact. But I mean, all this is gleaned through the use of asking the students and polling the students, see what they think, and then you'll have something to publish.
It's interesting the things you discover, right? Along the lines of getting faculty to use a student response system like TurningPoint, this is kind of a question that's very familiar to, or similar to that. Do you find that instructors who typically do not utilize technology have expressed an interest in using a student response system? Or do you find, or what's your experience?
No, in our case, if they're a non-technology user, they show no interest in this or anything else we might bring to the classroom.
Okay,
Ditto.
same?
Yeah, I think it's,
It's a challenge to overcome.
It is. And what's odd is that one of our faculty that repeatedly win the Outstanding Faculty of the Year award by the students just still uses pen and paper. Does overheads. So, I mean, he's successful in his sphere, but there are those that won't try it out.
Okay. What are you finding in relationship to faculty that are actually using a student response system in the lecture hall? Are they finding that it takes them longer to prepare a lecture using a product like TurningPoint? And what feedback are you getting from them
Longer to prepare?
to prepare?
Not so much. A lot of the faculty were already assessing the students informally in class anyway, and so they just inserted TurningPoint slides. For a few of our classes, class participation has always been a staple. Now it's just done more efficiently and easier,
Okay.
much easier.
I would just say that at the beginning, it might have been just they wanted to make sure they were doing it right and setting it up correctly, but probably at the same point as they were collecting that information in other ways, so it's probably not taking them any longer.
Okay.
I think what we've heard mostly is that on the back end, the learning curve to get used to the reports and things. And quite frankly, there were a number of faculty that just jumped into this thinking this would be a piece of cake. Sorry, Carrie. I mean, that was the sales pitch. But the reality is, like any technology, like any tool of any kind takes some amount of practice and preparation. And we had a few faculty failures only because of the fact that they didn't recognize this fact and prepare themselves.
Well, gentlemen, thank you very much. We're out of time for today, and we want to definitely keep on schedule as we approach a very long day here. We appreciate your participation in the panel discussion. A round of applause. Thank you.